200,000 Americans gave their lives to defend freedom and defeat the Nazis in the Second World War. Some enlisted and fought in England during the Blitz, but few faced the challenges of a group of Americans known as the Tuskegee Airmen. Nearly 7 decades ago, a group of African-American men in their late teens and 20s began pilot training at Tuskegee Army Airfield. This pioneering program broke racial barriers in military aviation and became an important part in American history. The achievements of the Tuskegee Airmen are uniquely noteworthy because they occurred at a time when these young men who were willing to risk their lives for America were subjected to racial discrimination. It is an act of true bravery that they were willing to give their lives for America, even though America still regarded them as second-class citizens. When one of the Tuskegee Airmen was shot down over Germany and interrogated by the Nazis, this is what the German interrogator asked him. "Tell me, Brown, why are you fellows so willing to fight for the United States? I know how colored people are treated in the United States, especially in the South. We Germans are considered enemies of the United States, and you fellows are dying for the United States. Yet German soldiers receive better treatment in the United States than you do. I can't understand you fellows." 84 Tuskegee Airmen lost their lives in World War II. They destroyed or damaged 400 enemy aircrafts, more than 619 boxcars, 126 locomotives. Its pilots received more than 150 Distinguished Flying Crosses, which helped America win the war and contributed greatly to ending America's racial discrimination policies. Please direct your attention to the screen.
Black America in the 1930s was a world of segregation in housing, education, the military, in almost all walks of life. When the United States entered World War II in December of 1941, a military draft had been in place for 3 months. Those who had not already been called up for service were volunteering for duty. African American men volunteered in large numbers to fight for the United States, despite the fact that their segregated units were initially relegated to manual labor, kitchen duty, and primarily non-combat work. They were often treated harshly and without any respect by white officers who resented being put in charge of black soldiers. A year before America's entry into the war, a unique project was underway at one of the country's most highly esteemed black colleges, the Tuskegee Institute in central Alabama. This program would change the view that many held about African American soldiers. Operated by the U.S. Army Air Corps, its purpose was to train black pilots for the new 99th Pursuit Squadron. This all-black flying unit was established under order by President Franklin Roosevelt. When the First Lady, Eleanor Roosevelt, visited the Tuskegee Institute in March of 1941 and met with the head of the program, Charles Chief Anderson, she insisted on flying with him. A few weeks later, the first African American enlisted men began their training, and by September of 1941, 3 months before the attack on Pearl Harbor, Captain Benjamin O. Davis, Jr. became the first black American to solo as a U.S. Army Air Corps officer. Captain Davis was a trailblazer for African Americans, just like his father, Benjamin O. Davis, Sr., who became the first African American general in the U.S. Army. In March of 1942, young black pilots were inducted into the U.S. Army Air Corps, and their squadron was created to be part of the 332nd Fight Group. That July, Captain Davis was promoted to the rank of lieutenant colonel and named commander of the 99th Pursuit Squadron. However, even as more African Americans joined the squadron and were being trained, despite their eagerness to use their skills to fight for their country, institutional racism was keeping the Tuskegee Airmen from any combat duty. Colonel Davis challenged his white superiors to allow his pilots to prove themselves and have the opportunity to fight for their country.
When we came under your command, Colonel, you stated very clearly that we would never find Negroes who could pass a pilot's exam, make it through flight school, survive basic combat.
A combat record which, to this point...
We've done all of that.
To this point, I don't believe your boys have scored a single aerial kill.
Because you have not assigned us a single forward mission. It's damn hard to shoot down the enemy 100 miles behind the front lines. We're given hand-me-down planes, ordered to attack targets that have already been bypassed, fly patrols where the enemy hasn't been seen for months. Now, we've done every low-down, dirty job you've handed us, hoping that we would just limp along and go away. We will not go away. We have a right to fight for our country, the same as every other American. So you shut us down, or you let us fly.
A little more than a year after their induction, the Tuskegee Airmen were finally given their chance to fly combat missions. In June of 1943, over Italy, 6 of the airmen became the first African-American pilots to engage in aerial combat. The Tuskegee Airmen became a key part of the air assault, which led to the surrender of the Italian Army in Pantelleria, an important milestone for the U.S. Army Air Corps and the Allies. Their work was incredibly dangerous, often clearing the skies for American bomber missions. Flying P-50s, P-39s, P-37s, and P-51s, their planes had a distinctive red tail marking, which brought the airmen the nickname of the Red Tails.
Easy, I see something. It's a train, 11 o'clock.
Let's go get it.
Wait, easy, we gotta take it head on. Low, so the guns can't hit us.
It's my decision, Lightning. Stay in formation.
In front of it!
Where's Lightning?
Where the hell are you, Lightning? Taking the train from the front like you should have done.
Between June of 1943 and May of 1945, when the war in Europe ended, the Tuskegee Airmen served with distinction, flying combat missions over Italy and Germany. Toward the end of the war, Colonel Davis led the squadron on the longest escort mission of the war flown by the 15th Air Force, a 1,600-mile round trip to bomb the Daimler-Benz tank works in Berlin. Their record included over 15,000 combat sorties, over 350 German airplanes destroyed, 1 German destroyer sunk, 150 Distinguished Flying Crosses, 744 Air Medals, 8 Purple Hearts, and 14 Bronze Stars, among other achievements. When the war ended, the black pilots of the Tuskegee Airmen returned to the United States, only to face the continued racism and bigotry of the era in spite of their war effort. The aviation program at Tuskegee Institute was expanded and continued to train new airmen. In 1948, President Harry Truman signed an executive order that integrated the U.S. Armed Forces, ending decades of segregation. Experienced African-American personnel were integral in the development of the newly established United States Air Force, replacing the old Army Air Corps. Two of its veterans, Lucius Theus and Daniel Chappie James, became generals, with General James becoming the country's first African-American four-star general. And its first squadron leader, who fought on behalf of allowing the Tuskegee Airmen to fly in combat during World War II, Benjamin O. Davis Jr., also was promoted to the rank of general. And in 1998, he was awarded his fourth star by then-President Bill Clinton. Today, African American men and women are an integral part of the U.S. Armed Forces, serving with distinction around the world. But it was not long ago that a group of brave young men had to fight for the opportunity to defend their country, laying the groundwork for what we all take for granted today as Americans.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome members of the Tuskegee Airmen, Theodore G. Lumpkin, Jr., Edward E. Tillman, Levi H. Torhill, and Jerry T. Hodges, Jr.
Good evening. My name is Ted Lumpkin, and I was an intelligence officer for the 100th Fighter Squadron in World War II in Italy in 1944-45. You saw the movie, you saw the picture, and the thing that I really believe that you need to think about is the word hope. Hope has been spoken here tonight, and you can realize how important it is and how key it is to all of our lives. And it is one of the things that kept us going, and today we are here to receive the award from an organization which exemplifies hope, determination, and motivation. We're very, very pleased to receive this award,